Kia ora, everyone. I'm talking about supplements today, and there's lots to cover, so let's get going. So supplements, basically, supplement industry is one of the most profitable businesses on this planet, and so there are lots of pitfalls that we need to be aware of, particularly safety. So in general, supplements don't go as rigorous testing as pharmaceuticals. However, in New Zealand and Australia, we have really good legislation to prevent mischief. So generally, you would be safe if you're buying supplements in this country. But if you're importing directly from elsewhere, there might be issues. Supplements obviously natural but are bioactive substances and so can cause adverse reactions, and then it can interact with each other as well as with medications. So it's always good to check with a qualified health professional, either pharmacist, naturopath, or a doctor. Overdose is possible with supplements. More is not necessarily better, and I'll cover some of the most common culprits later on. So the top 5 supplements in New Zealand and Australia are multivitamins, omega-3s, probiotics, protein powders, and magnesium. Do we need them? Our lifestyle definitely leads to increased demand for nutrients such as antioxidants and nutrients, or vitamins and minerals. So does aging, so natural processes as well. On the other hand, the standard Western diet is nutrient poor, and nutrient deficiencies are therefore pretty common, more common than you would probably expect. The most common deficiencies are those of micronutrients, in particular vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamins B, especially B12 and folate, and also iron, zinc, iodine, and selenium. Here is a word of warning. So a lot of micronutrients, particularly metals and fat-soluble vitamins, can be toxic in overdose. So here is where the rule is not necessarily better applies, definitely. Then we have macronutrients, so big nutrients that come in big amounts. And here, the deficiency most commonly observed are those of protein, inadequate protein intake, essential fatty acids or omega-3s, and I also included fiber here. On the other hand, we have natural food, right? So natural food is being shown by research to be more nutrient dense and more nutrient diverse than processed food. In addition, natural sources have additional benefits such as nutrient synergy, which is basically how the individual molecules enhance each other's effects. And so there is this whole symphony of things that happens when you eat natural food. They also have better bioavailability, and that so bioavailability is our body's ability to actually utilize the nutrient. Bioavailability can be further improved by activating some nutrients. So, for example, if you sprout seeds or soak your legumes for a longer time, or soak your nuts before eating them, you're activating the nutrients in them. And you can also combine foods cleverly to improve absorption. What impairs it is alcohol. Alcohol impairs bioavailability of B vitamins, vitamin D, magnesium, and zinc, and also excess fiber. But that is a very rare problem, so I'm not going to waste your time on that. Then, interestingly, organic produce has been consistently found to have greater natural density of nutrients than crops that have been produced using mass agricultural practices, and that just kind of adds to the point that we keep saying that clean whole food is the best nutrition for humans and animals. Vitamins, yes or no? Yes, I'd say absolutely yes if eating mostly processed foods. They are convenient, they cover multiple needs, and they are formulated with enough safety margin to prevent toxicity. On the other hand, they are not personalized, so they may not be meeting your personal needs, or providing nutrients that you don't need and that could potentially harm you, although those chances are quite low. They are also not as bioavailable and can upset tummies because they are full of fillers to make the pills. Just want to quickly cover testing for micronutrients because some of them, as I mentioned, can be toxic in overdose, in high doses. So, high priority for testing. Here I listed vitamin D and iron. Both of these are very toxic when they reach certain levels. Medium priority, this would be if you are planning to take a high dose that is higher than the recommended daily allowance, and the RDAs can be found online easily. Now, quickly about extremely important vitamin D. Vitamin D is very, very important for a number of bodily functions. Basically, there's hardly anything it's not involved in. I very highly recommend testing for two reasons. Deficiency is very, very common. People are often falsely reassured, I'm in the sun all the time, and then you measure their levels and actually it's low. And that is because people with darker skins, the people who cover themselves with clothes or stay a lot inside, just don't make enough. And also, if we people who live higher latitudes don't get enough, and that means basically everyone on the South Island of New Zealand, and in Australia it would be south of Sydney. In winter months, we just don't get the sun angle that we need to get to convert into active vitamin D, and so deficiencies can evolve. So testing is good. And on the other hand, we need to test if we are supplementing to make sure that we are not overshooting. I recommend supplementation with vitamin D3 plus K2 because they have been shown to have synergistic effect and have really good results in preventing number of issues. And I use daily dosing as opposed to monthly dosing, which tends to work better as well. Briefly about iron, people at risk, obviously women with heavy periods or any sort of bleeding in the body, chronic disease, sick guts, but also people who are predominantly eating plants. Testing is funded. Low levels are pretty common in those categories, but toxicity is possible, especially in people with hemochromatosis, which is a genetic condition that we want to be aware of. Those people should not have iron supplements. And there are various forms of supplementation. Some are gentler on the gut than others. I'm happy to talk to this during the Q&A session. Vitamin C, super important. Huge doses are not necessary. In fact, they can be harmful if they are taken frequently. Zinc, people who are predominantly on plant-based diets are at risk of developing deficiencies, and there are also certain groups of people that have increased demands, such as during pregnancy, people with sick gut and other chronic issues. I do recommend testing if you are planning to take any dose higher than 8-10 milligrams a day, and generally use picolinate for supplementation. B12, vitamin that is often low in people who only eat plants. So I check that often for vegans and vegetarians, prefer oral daily dosing rather than injections. Folate only found in plants, so those that don't eat enough green leafy vegetables can suffer from a deficiency in this. Very, very important for nerves. Highly recommended in pregnancy to prevent neural tube defects. Testing is generally not necessary. Iodine and selenium, both really important for good thyroid function, selenium also for immunity. I test if people are taking higher doses because overdose is very toxic with both. And low dose supplementation during pregnancy, again, is highly recommended. Magnesium, almost everyone can do with magnesium supplementation. Stress, recovery, bone health, bowels, and the list goes on and on and on. There are different forms of magnesium, each kind of have their niche for different bodily functions. Again, I'm happy to talk to this in the Q&A session if you are interested. And blood testing is generally not necessary unless you are taking really high doses, which would be anything above 350 milligrams a day. I generally use hair testing to assess this because the blood test only picks up on really severe deficiencies. Macronutrients: fiber, not necessarily a nutrient for our body, but definitely a nutrient for our microbes, but has a number of other benefits as well. Optimal daily intake is 20 to 30 grams. Hardly anyone can actually achieve that. So supplementation isn't a bad idea. If you do choose to supplement, I recommend introducing them very gradually to prevent bloating, and definitely drink plenty of water. Fiber has been shown to have lots and lots of benefits, reducing cholesterol, sugar, gut health, and the list goes on. Probiotics. I do not recommend generic supplementation with probiotics. But if you are using them for a specific purpose and using specific strain that has been researched for that specific purpose, then absolutely go ahead. Lots of research supporting that. Essential fatty acids: growth, recovery, stress, inflammation, gut, skin, such a long list, and so many of us don't have enough of these. This is a supplement that most of us could benefit from, unless you have a very balanced diet. Pitfalls to be aware of is that quality is really, really important. Many manufacturers don't produce good quality, and so then basically you are just ingesting putrefied oils, which are not very good for your body. Also, there could be issues with contamination with mercury because they are sourced from fish, and the oceans are so polluted that most fish have too high mercury levels. There are also issues with sustainability of their sourcing. Protein supplements, are these necessary? Well, the recommended protein intake is 1 to 2 grams per kilogram of lean body mass, leaning on the higher side if you have increased demand. So elderly, ill, people in recovery, people who are really physically active, or people who are on the weight loss journey. Most people find it difficult to fulfill this requirement with food only. And for those, powders could be helpful, although obviously food is much preferred. Word of warning: too much is possible and can damage kidneys and cause or exacerbate the gout. So I would be careful with that and not exceed 2 grams per kilogram unless you are under medical supervision. So in conclusion, diverse whole food diet is the key to good health. Supplementation should ideally be targeted and personalized. Testing micronutrients plays an important role for identifying deficiencies, monitoring, and preventing adverse outcomes. And cautious use of supplements can improve health outcomes, but also save you money. Thank you for your attention. See you next time.